Hey guys, Coach Rachel here, and I want to explain to you everything that is 21 Day Fix containers. I get a lot of questions about these, things like, do you actually measure things out? How do I put a meal plan together? And so much more. So I want to answer your questions and hopefully give you some guidance on how to use the container system, because I think it's crucial to understand healthy portion control in your weight loss journey. I've used these containers my entire journey. So for losing 80 pounds, I use them, I measure out my food, and I can definitely tell when I haven't used them because my scale fluctuates and I don't feel as good and I overeat and I'm uncomfortable. So the first step is understanding what do each color mean. Sure, there's these pretty little containers, but what do they actually mean? So there's a container for each food group. So the first food group would be green, that's vegetables. You have your purple container, which is fruits. You have your proteins, which is red. You have your carbs, which is yellow. And then you have your healthy fats. This is things like cheese and hummus, etc. So healthy fats are blue. And then the last one, I believe, is orange, and this is seeds and dressings, things like salad dressing. So that's kind of a brief overview of what the containers are. Now I want to share with you how to figure out, okay, so that's all good, but how many do you eat per day? So there's several different ways you can go about this. You can, if you've gotten the Fixate cookbook, it tells you how to figure it out in the front of the cookbook. It also, if you've bought a DVD set that has the container system with it, it tells you how to figure it out in your booklet. So for example, this is Country Heat, and in the beginning pages, it talks about how to get started. It goes over what the cups mean and what colors, etc., just like I just said. But then it tells you how to figure out how many you get each day. So for this one, it gives you a calculation. It takes your current weight, you multiply it by a certain number to get your caloric baseline. You add 300 calories for, this is for Country Heat, 300 calories for your calorie burn. And then that would be your maintenance category if you were not wanting to lose weight. However, if you were wanting to lose weight, it tells you how many calories to subtract. It gives you a caloric target. All this sounds kind of crazy, but it does break it down. And then it tells you, okay, so what category and what calorie target am I shooting for each day with the containers? So for Country Heat, for example, it'll break down how many of each of these you would get each day. So for example, if you were in Plan A, which is the lowest category, it would tell you you would get 3 vegetables each day. You'd get 2 fruits, 4 proteins, 2 carbs, etc. And it tells you how many of each containers each day. So you don't have to try and figure it out. As you lose weight, you'll decrease the number of containers that you're getting each day, and so on and so forth. So that's one way to do it. You can also go on to Beachbody On Demand, and in the Files tab of most of the workouts is a nutrition plan, and it tells you the same kind of guidelines in there. Each program is a little bit different because the exercise level is different. If you have a harder program, you're probably going to be eating more containers because you're burning off more calories. If you have an easier program, your caloric intake is going to be a little bit lower. For example, something like Core de Force, your caloric intake is a certain amount for week 1, but in weeks 2 and 3, they up the number of fruits and healthy fats that you get to counteract the amount of fitness that you are doing each day. So that's how you figure out how many you do. The first thing you do, you have to figure out the number of containers that you have each day. So that's step 1. So for me, for example, in my journey right now, I have 4 greens, 3 fruits, 4 vegetables, 3 fruits, 4 proteins, 3 carbs, 1 healthy fat, 1 dressing, and then 2 teaspoons. So I know that that's kind of my target each day. So some frequently asked questions. What do you do if you're still hungry at the end of the day or in between your meals, etc.? This is going to be something that's personal preference, but most of the time, it's just your body deceiving you. You're not actually hungry, you're just bored, food bored. I know for me, I'm a big snacker, and so I've learned that my body isn't actually hungry, I'm just bored and I'm snacking out of boredom. So a couple ways to combat that is to drink extra water, add chia seeds to your water. That helps you feel fuller for longer periods of time. I would give it 3 days before you did anything to your containers. Stick to the caloric intake you're supposed to be doing each day for 3 days and then reassess. If you're still constantly hungry, then we probably need to look at what you're doing and maybe reassess. But you should be eating every 3 hours. So if you're hungry, my first question is, are you eating every 3 hours? If you can say yes, then that's great. Okay. The other thing would be, how active are you? If you're doing a 30-minute workout each day and then you're also chasing around kids all day long, or you have a very active job, etc., then you're probably going to need to eat more in order to combat that versus someone who sits at a desk all day or doesn't have as active of a job. A 30-minute workout is all the activity they're getting in a day, then their caloric intake would be a little bit lower. So we would want to take that into consideration. Under the 21 Day Fix Nutrition booklet, page 76 offers some guidance on exactly what to do if you're feeling hungry in between your meals and in between your containers. So, all right, okay, so the next thing, what is it bad if you don't eat all of your containers? The answer is yes. So you really want to try to give it at least a week or two eating, really 2 to 3 weeks eating all of the containers. If you're in the higher bracket, this may seem like a lot, but you're retraining your body to not hold on to weight. What people don't realize is when you're depriving yourself of the proper nutrition, you're eating calories, but they're empty calories, whereas when you're doing the 21 Day Fix or doing this portion control system, you're eating nutrient-dense food, and your body has to adjust to that. So I would encourage you to make sure to try and eat all of your containers. If you had to skip out on a couple, I would make sure to get your vegetables and your proteins in first, but try to stick to that as much as possible. And if you can't get all your containers in for the day, make sure to reach out to your coach and they can help you brainstorm through that. The other thing you can do is space it out during the day. So if you're eating like breakfast, snack, lunch, snack, dinner, maybe have breakfast, snack, lunch, snack, dinner. That's an option. So try that. And space it out and have smaller meals but more frequently throughout the day. So that's another option. All right, so if you're a picky eater, what do you do? I get this question a lot. So a great way to do this is to print out every every food option in your list. Make a copy of this, make a print it out from Beachbody On Demand, but print out. So in each category, it tells you what foods are approved on your plan. So if you print it out and then you go over and take a highlighter and highlight the ones that you like, that gives you an idea of what you're working with when you're planning your meals. So one of the other questions that I got is, how do you know how to measure odd items like bread and tortillas and things like that? You're not going to be stuffing a tortilla in a yellow container. So in the nutrition guide, it will tell you, and this is also in the files of Beachbody On Demand, it will tell you, okay, for something like, let me see, whole grain crackers, it'll tell you get 8 of them. Or something like bread, whole grain bread, you get 1 slice is 1 serving of yellow. So that will help you with odd shaped things. There's a list, make sure to go by the list. The rule of thumb is if it's not on the list, you really shouldn't be eating it. But if it is on the list, it's rated in order of best in nutrients for you. So higher up in the list are the ingredients that are higher quality ingredients. So things like at the top of the list for yellows, which is carbs, at the top is sweet potatoes and plantains and quinoa and beans, lentils, edamame. At the bottom of the list is tortillas and bagels, English muffins, pancakes. So you want to try to eat the ones towards the bottom of the list only a few times a week versus every single day. Whereas the ones at the top of the list, those are the ones you want to focus on. But it's okay to have whole grain waffles, etc. Okay, so that would be a recommendation. If you're picky, print out every food group and then highlight the things that you enjoy and then go from there. I also encourage you to expand your horizons and try to find recipes that you would be willing to try for new food groups, especially vegetables. I was an extremely picky eater and extremely picky about my vegetables and did not like them, but I expanded my horizons and I'm so glad I did because I'm eating more vegetables now than I ever have in my whole life. You can ask my mom. All right, so another thing I got asked was, is there a tally sheet or a printable? Usually in my challenge groups, there's a tally sheet in the files tab. You can also find it on Team Beachbody's website under fitness tools or nutrition tools. They have one that you can edit digitally, and then they have one that you can print out and mark off, etc. It's a great way of tracking your containers each day. There's also an app called 21 Day Fix, which if you are an app person, that's a great option because you can track and mark off every time you eat a container. I have seen some people get bracelets as well, so you get a bracelet for every container that you get for the day, and as you eat them, you switch it to the other side. So I thought that's pretty neat as well. I don't do that, but I probably should. All right, last thing, let me think. These booklets contain a lot of information, so I encourage you to look through them. Okay, so the tally sheets look kind of like this. So there's a line for each of your meals, and then you could do a check mark after each. You can make a copy of this, or there's in the printouts on Team Beachbody or in my challenge group files. All right, so the last question really is how do you meal plan? I get this a lot. They say, okay, I know I get the containers, but how do you actually meal plan around the containers? My encouragement to you is first step, start simple. So pick ingredients from each category and prep them and start simple. So don't try to do a bunch of crazy recipes and then try to figure out the container equivalent. It doesn't work like that. So for example, I'm gonna do a little meal prepping for you. So what I do, it's gonna be backwards on here, but hopefully you can see, is I set up my number of containers I get each day at the top. So I've written 4 green, 3 carbs, 3 fruit, etc. And I listed all at the top of this notepad. Then I put Monday, and then I have a line for breakfast, morning snack, lunch, afternoon snack, and dinner. And I do that for each day of the week. Start small, do it in 3-day increments. So for example, let's say for dinner I start with dinners because if I can kind of backwards engineer dinners and go from there. So for dinner, let's say I did baked chicken, side salad, and a sweet potato. So I know that for dinner, I'm having 1 red, which is a protein, I'm having 1 green, which is a vegetable, and then I'm having 1 yellow, which is sweet potato. So on the other side of that, I'm gonna mark off those containers for that meal. And I'm gonna backwards engineer for snacks. Let's say I need a healthy fat and a vegetable. So I could do carrots with hummus, and that would be 1 green and 1 blue. And then for lunch, you do the same thing and you go all the way up. You can fit your Shakeology in there. Shakeology counts as a red. I always beef it up and put fruit and nut butters and things like that in there. So that's a great option. So that's how I backwards engineer. A couple great resources for recipes is the Fix8 cookbook is my go-to. I use this literally on a weekly basis. But the Fix8 cookbook is an awesome source for that. Because what it does is it gives you a recipe, it gives you how to make it, etc. But at the top, it tells you per serving how much the serving is, and then per serving what the container count is. So for a serving of turkey chili, which is 1.5 cups, it would be 1/2 of a green, 1 yellow, 1 red, and 1/2 of a teaspoon. And it gives you all kinds of recipes. The other great option is Beachbody's blog. That also does a breakdown of the container for every recipe that's on the blog, which is really helpful. So I encourage you not to overload yourself, keep it simple, but do measure out the containers. Rule of thumb is that the lid should be able to fit on top of the containers. Don't let it overflow or anything crazy, but the lid should be able to fit on top, and you should be able to close it, and that's 1 serving. Do use these. You'll be surprised at how quickly you can overeat on healthy food. If you're overeating healthy food, then you're going to be more inclined to be giving up on your journey because you're not going to be seeing results. You're going to get frustrated that you're not seeing results and think that your body's just not ever going to lose weight and give up, which isn't true. You just have to teach it healthy portions. So for example, let's say you go to Chick-fil-A and get a garden salad. What you don't realize is that's probably all of your vegetables for the day when you count in tomatoes, all of the lettuce, it's probably double the amount of cheese you should be drinking or eating. The dressing is like 10 times the amount of dressing that you should be eating. So you don't realize how quickly you think you're making a good choice by eating a garden salad, but in reality, you're overeating for all your calories for the day. So just keep that in mind as you're going out. It doesn't mean you can't eat out, it just you have to be mindful. And I think that is all of the questions that I had gotten about the container system. So I hope that this video is helpful. If you have questions, please let me know. But I did want to just break down the container system, answer a couple of frequently asked questions, and encourage you to use it. It is a great tool for your journey. It's not meant for everyone. Some people need to be doing paleo and things like that, but you can still use them as a guideline. Do I actually store things in the containers? No. I use it as basically as a measuring cup. I measure it out and then dump it out on my plate. This is also good because it will help you be able to visualize healthy portions and make sure that when you are out and about that you can utilize your portion control system and still stay on track. So, hope that was helpful. Thanks for watching and have a great day.